You came in 2 years ago and you did your first interview post the court case and the hearing with us on Good Morning Britain. It's been an extraordinary 2 years. You've now put your remarkable story into this book that you've written called Double Crossed, which is just an extraordinary experience to go through.
You were really moved by it, weren't you?
Moved and gripped.
About it.
I knew the story, I knew bits of it, but what was it like for you, Brian, reliving the details of your career, some of those battles in the war zone, but also that battle in the courtroom?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot, actually, and people say, oh, have you put it to bed? It actually ignited a few other things that I'd not been thinking about for a while. So, it definitely did close a lot of chapters, but it was a difficult time to kind of put everything on paper, really. But I've done it and I've achieved it, so...
In a way, was having to deal with the battle at home, the courtroom battle, meant that you almost had to put aside dealing with the horror of what you went through, and doing that kind of brought that back, do you think?
Yeah, it was all sorts of emotions, really. I mean, any soldier or veteran will tell you reintegrating into kind of normal conditions after being on operations is very difficult, really difficult. To then have, this inquiry hanging over your head for such a long period of time, it just kind of swung me all over the place. I never knew how to deal with it, if I'm honest. I wasn't prepped, I wasn't trained for it. It was kind of going into a battle that I was going into blind, really, because, like I said, I didn't understand it. And I was just questioning myself as well. Did I do the right thing? It just put me in a bit of a flat spin, really, and others, because I always say it wasn't just me what went through this. There was, my regiment's name was tarnished, the British Army was tarnished, and clearly me and my fellow soldiers were just put through a horrific experience, which broke a lot of people. It ended careers, it fueled PTSD, and it just wasn't fair. And I was heartbroken. That's the end of it, really.
Totally exonerated, of course, and Phil Shiner, who sort of falsely accused you all of these crimes, has been struck off. He had his honorary doctorate stripped from him. He's bankrupt. I mean, he's lost everything as well. I wonder how you feel 2 years on from that situation, Brian. Does it give you sort of do you feel like you've had some justice there with regards to what's happened to him?
Hopefully people read the book, and I've highlighted a few things for the government and the MOD to get right. There was a lot of lessons to be learnt. Look, and we should learn from them lessons. Phil Shiner's the same, he's gone, he can't practice now what he's trained to do for so many years, and he, whether he learns his lesson or not, well, he can't practice anymore, so his lesson has been learnt the hard way. But it's just, I do believe, though, he was gold standard at one point. He was a very good at what he did. But
I think he got Human Rights Lawyer of the Year one year, didn't he? 2006?
And it just kind of, I think through money, he was so dug in with what he believed. I think he believed his own lies. But, Johnny would know a lot more about kind of the complications of the trial.
Johnny, I wonder... Sorry, Kate. Reading the book, one of the things that comes across is, and as Brian is saying, as soon as the accusations are made and he's sort of thrown into another war zone, but one he's not prepared for, not armed for, had no training in whatsoever. At that point, why was it that the British government didn't offer more support and reassurance to their soldiers and the families as well?
Yeah, I mean, look, this sort of breakdown between the government and the military is what ultimately sort of drove me to leave the military and try and, fix that side of things. I think it is genuinely sort of one of the darkest periods of our history. You look at someone like Brian and you realise that he sort of represents everything that is good about the British Army that was asked to go and do a very unpopular war. It's not perfect, OK, but this idea that there was a complete breakdown in sort of values and standards that we worked so hard to uphold, and for that to be all aired in public, and then for there not to be anything really in defence of these guys, and for them to be put on the stand, in my view, is one of the greatest betrayals this country's had towards its servicemen. And of course, in some areas, it continues. We've managed to do some stuff on the Iraq Historical Allegations team, and that doesn't exist anymore. But this is still going on for pensioners in this country around Northern Ireland. It's a humiliating episode that the government at the moment is unable or seems to, in my view, unwilling to stop.
It feels like politicians, who are the people that decide our extraordinary service people have to risk their lives and go into battle, on behalf of us all. They make the decisions, but when the war that they've been fighting becomes out of favour, then they then don't stand by those decisions and allows people like Shiner to then exploit it, as far as I can see. How do we learn lessons, or politicians learn for that future? Because you could look back to the Vietnam War, couldn't you, as a place where we first saw that? And, as you say, still going on today. Well,
look, you have to have some sort of legislation that prevents people picking over the actions of people like Brian, at the actions of Danny Boy. You have to change a whole lot of things, but fundamentally, the thing that went wrong was that there was this perception within Whitehall and within government that people like Brian were bad and out of control, and actually all these claimants coming forward were good.
Because I think there was shame about the war, generally.
There was a general shame. There was, there was this desire to kind of self-flagellate in a way, and people like Brian and his family got caught up in it, and it was, it's a gross injustice, and I'm just proud that he's, come forward and told his story now.
It's 2 years.
2 years. We were on together, right?
Yes, we were. You came in that morning. We've become good friends over those 2 years as well, which has been great for me to understand a little bit more. But what's life been like 2 years on, Brian, and how are things on Civvy Street? Yeah,
I mean, now I work for a company called The Office Group. They bought 300 books, for every employee, for me to do like an internal portfolio tour and sign the books. But they've just been overly supportive. And like I said, transition from an institutionalised bubble to I call this the real world, is difficult. It's really hard. So for them to be loyal, stick by me, show some incredible values, which I hold myself to as well. It's just been, it's been a journey. It's been busy.
Are you happy? Can you say you're happy now?
In family life, we're the happiest we've ever been.
Good.
Lucy, I know she's like overly quiet and shy, but she is stuck by me through thick and through thin, and my boys are, I like to think, proud of their dad.
Undoubtedly. And one of the things that I think you've always told me about is how important business can be for armed men and women when they come out of the army in terms of negotiating that transition. No, totally. I mean, if you just give a veteran, a soldier, a chance, like I said, their basic principles, their fundamentals are incredible. They perceive themselves well, they'll always be early, they're hard-working individuals, but just need a chance. On CVs, they might not be there, but have a face-to-face, because you'll be blown away. Wow. We have been, every time you come in...
You're the best advert for it.
Undoubtedly. Double Crossed is Brian's book. It truly is a remarkable account of his experience, both in the military and then in the courtroom, and one that will leave you thinking and challenged by ideas and hopefully changed as well. Great to see you as ever.
Thank you.
Johnny, thank you for your support this morning too.